Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today for this presentation about the GNSA Liaison Program. We'll be taking some time to go over the role, what it entails, how you can apply all of those details. Before we get started, I'll go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Anne Pearson. I am the Student Services Coordinator here at AACN, which means I get to do a lot of work directly with students to support the GNSA, and I play a big role in the Liaison Program itself. And then I'll allow my colleague Marta to introduce herself.
Everyone, welcome. My name is Marta Kaniewski, and I am the Director of Student Engagement at AACN, working with my colleague Anne and really getting to dive into a lot of the components related to our Graduate Nursing Student Academy. So looking forward to chatting with you all today. So today we just want to give you a quick overview of what we're going to be talking about during this orientation. First, we're going to give a very brief overview of what exactly is the GNSA. We're going to direct you to some videos that we encourage you to view on your own to dive into a little bit more details. Next, we'll talk about the liaison role and talk about exactly what the responsibilities of the liaisons are. We'll tell you how you can get started in the role, what you can do, how to navigate some of the different tools that are available to you, and what we encourage you to do to really dive into being a liaison. We'll also share with you what some of the benefits are. I'm sure many of you are wondering what are the benefits of signing up and applying, and so we'll certainly be sharing that with you all today, and then we'll have some time to answer some of your questions. So first up, as I mentioned, this is going to be a very brief overview of our Graduate Nursing Student Academy. If you are watching this video or listening to our orientation video, hopefully you have already done a little bit of a dive into what the GNSA is, but it is a professional organization for graduate nursing students. When we first created the GNSA in 2012, we saw that there was really no centralized national organization focused specifically for the graduate nursing student. And so through AACN's resources, we've been able to help create the GNSA, which really provides free resources, programming, and various opportunities for support to help in your professional development and help you be successful in completing your graduate nursing program and really transitioning to that next phase of your nursing career. We're very happy and proud that our membership is over 13,000 national members across the country in every state in the US, really representing every graduate nursing program out there. So some of the resources that are available, here's just a quick rundown of what you can access as a GNSA member. It is a free opportunity, so we certainly encourage you and your students to sign up for the GNSA. But we do offer live and on-demand webinars, and these do offer CE credits for you. So we really focus the topics on things that are of interest to graduate nursing students, whether it be leadership development, publishing, grant writing, working on your DMP project. So really gather information from our graduate students, from our members, to see what's of importance to you to create these live webinars that you can then also access on demand if you are unable to attend our live sessions. We also have a very active online community where students can post questions, share resources. We oftentimes have conversations around gratitude or ways to prepare for the new year. If you're looking for preceptors, there are questions around that and some suggestions for places for you to look. So really a place for you to ask other fellow students what their experience is and gain information from the entire community. We also have several leadership opportunities. Today, you're finding out about one of them, which is the liaison role. We also have some advocacy leader opportunities, as well as our digital innovators. And of course, there are other ways to highlight leaders. We have an emerging leader feature in our monthly publication, the GNSA Bulletin. So those are just some of the different leadership opportunities that are available. We also have ways for you to engage in policy and really fine tune those advocacy skills. I already mentioned the GNSA advocacy leaders. We also collaborate with our government affairs team and really get that information to you to help you take action and become involved in the policy process and learn more about how you can become more engaged in advocacy. There are also member exclusive scholarships that are available to you through our AACN Foundation. So many of the scholarships are for GNSA members specifically. And then finally, we have our monthly GNSA bulletin that I already referenced. It is our one-stop shop for all information related to what is going on at the GNSA, whether it's current events, whether it's things related to the liaison position. There are other opportunities that are listed there frequently. So that's the place that we encourage you to ensure that you're reading that every month once it gets to your inbox to find out everything related to what's going on. On this slide, you'll also see a QR code. We encourage you to explore more information around the GNSA. There is a wonderful video that Anne created for us about the different resources and what's available through the GNSA. It's a very quick video that you can take a look at, and feel free to share with others as well to learn more about the GNSA.
Thanks so much, Marta. So obviously the GNSA has a pretty extensive group of resources available for graduate nursing students, but it's almost the beating heart of the GNSA that allows us to be quite so responsive is the Liaison Program. So our liaisons are volunteers who engage their fellow students and serve as a point of contact on their campus. I'm going to get into a lot of the different responsibilities, the ways that you can engage in the GNSA as liaison in a moment, but I want to start by saying that the role has two main objectives. The first is all about supporting your fellow students, and it kind of goes both ways. Part of that is making sure that students know that the GNSA exists. As Marta mentioned, the GNSA is a free resource available to all students at GNSA member institutions, but for some students, they're simply not aware, or they learn about it later in their degree and wish that they'd had access to the resources sooner. So that looks like presenting materials to students or sharing about upcoming webinars or scholarships. At the same time, we want to know if there are resources that we could be offering for GNSA members or for yourself that we're not. And so our liaisons are a major point of us hearing those things. We have a semesterly town hall call, as well as a lot of other points of contact where liaisons sit down and say, hey, I actually could really use writing resources. And we had that feedback. We developed a webinar with Purdue OWL and have writing groups every other week now, where students can come together and support each other. So that's the first of the goals, about supporting your fellow students. And the second is all about you as a leader and how we can support you. Liaisons have access to numerous leadership opportunities, and I'll talk more about these later. But things like networking, we have exclusive opportunities for liaisons to meet each other, connect with other student leaders across the country. We have opportunities to develop your writing and publish through the GNSA, opportunities to help us develop resources and lead at the national level to be a change maker. And so I'm going to get in now to what some of these specific tasks are that we ask from liaisons, but those are the overarching goals. So there are a few things that the liaisons are asked to do that are not on a yearly basis, but a little larger. So the first is town hall call participation, and we ask that liaisons join one-hour town hall call each semester. So we have one in the spring, one in the fall. We announce these dates a month in advance or more if we can, to give you plenty of heads up, and we have opportunities to join outside of that if you need to. But this is a chance for all of the liaisons in the program to come together and give us broader feedback. So we usually start with a couple of specific questions that have been on our mind recently about how we're doing our programming, if there are specific topics that people might be interested in, if these resources would be helpful. And then we have more open-ended questions for the second half, where we're asking about specific things that you're struggling with at the moment, or if you have any ideas for ways to engage. And so these are really essential. They're a chance for liaisons to meet with GNSA staff and with our leadership council, the 10 GNSA students who are helping run our programming, and give very direct feedback. We also ask every semester that liaisons complete a semester summary. This is a brief 15-minute form at the end of each semester that we send out, where you share what you've been up to over the course of the semester. This is how we keep track of your responsibilities, as well as if there are any resources we could send your way and what your goals are for the next semester. This is really a good touch point because we have over 100 liaisons. It's a great place to communicate with us and let us know your thoughts and make sure that you're being supported. And then this happens really once at the end of your term, although you're welcome to bring another liaison on while you're in the role, and we'll talk more about that later. But we ask that you recruit a replacement liaison on your campus. Once you've been there and you've been doing all of this work to make sure students are aware about the GNSA, we want to make sure that continues with each new cohort of students. So as you're ending your tenure as a liaison, either because you're graduating or you know that your school responsibilities might become a little too much and you'll need to step away, we ask that you share information about the liaison position and ask faculty and people like that if they might have any recommendations for a student leader to take over the role. So those operate either on a semesterly or a once during your term basis. And then the rest of the tasks that we ask liaisons to participate in are based on the year cycle. And we ask that you complete 3 of these tasks over the course of a year. I'll go into each of these tasks a little bit, but as I am, think about where they would fall into those 2 major objectives of the role, whether that's supporting your fellow students or you growing as a leader. So one that Marta already mentioned is this emerging leader feature that we have in our bulletin every semester. Our liaisons are the ones who nominate emerging leaders in large part. They're sharing either a fellow student, or if they believe that they themselves are an emerging leader, as you are in the role, you can nominate yourself and share why this person is outstanding, why they should be featured. And that's where we pull those nominations and use them in the bulletin from. We also ask our liaisons to potentially interview a nursing leader, asking someone who you've met in your network, somebody from your school, who is really outstanding and transforming the way that nursing is functioning, whether that be graduate nursing or the field as a whole, and ask them to sit down for a brief interview and share that recording with us so that we can then share it with GNSA students across the country. For example, we just had an excellent interview from one of our liaisons where she talked with somebody who was a lecturer at her university, but who had done a significant amount of research on emergency room care and systemic issues in that, and talked about how her research had impacted the national level. So this is a great opportunity to engage and meet a leader, get to know them, and to share information with other GNSA members. Students, in a similar vein, we have my 2030 Vision for Nursing video, which is an opportunity to share your voice. Where do you see nursing going, and how do you see yourself being a part of that change? I mentioned opportunities to develop your writing, and the writing a piece for the Liaison Pulse is a really key way to do that. The Liaison Pulse goes out once a month to all our GNSA members and is featured in the liaison updates. And it's a chance to share either something that you're very passionate about, a project that you're working on, research you've done, an experience you've had. It's a more informal piece on a topic that you care about. And then it can lead to significant change within the GNSA. If other people read it and they feel that they've had a similar experience, it can lead to things like work groups being developed. And again, it's a chance to have your writing published, to talk about editing a piece, things like that. You can also share your voice on our social media by participating in an Instagram takeover. And that's a great way to kind of do something like a day in the life of a nurse or a graduate nursing student. Other ways that you can engage: you can attend 2 of our GNSA webinars over the course of a year, or host a webinar watch party at your school. And that's possible to do whether you're in person or virtual. As Marta mentioned, all of our webinars have CE credit, so it's also a way to go ahead and fulfill that requirement for yourself while checking a box for your role as the liaison as well. You can take GNSA materials to a conference with you and share information there with students who may not even be on your campus. And then you can also share information about the GNSA at your school itself, presenting before an orientation or before a class. And we have plenty of materials to support that, which I'll share in just a moment. The list continues because there are lots and lots of ways to engage as liaison. The whole point is it's almost a choose your own adventure of what would be most beneficial for you and your fellow students. So I mentioned networking opportunities, and one of the major ones that you have access to as a liaison are our bi-weekly liaison office hours. They are small gatherings of student leaders where our liaisons get to just sit down and chat and share what they're working on, what they're struggling with in school, where their passions lie, And very, very frequently, liaisons will meet someone new across the country in a different program who cares about a very similar thing, share information, share resources, talk about research together, talk about their practice. So it's a really great space to get to know others. You can also be a leader in the GNSA community if communicating online is more of your thing. Many of our liaisons are very active in this online forum and start posts, respond to conversations. And we often keep an eye on that and sometimes develop webinars and things like that from those conversations. In a similar vein to the office hours, we also have a once a semester networking event, which is a larger get together where we change the way we do it each time to give students opportunities to engage with other people. But our most recent one, we broke all of our liaisons who attended out by the kind of program they were in. So we had a master's room, a DMP, and a PhD room. And they were able to just sit and chat with other students in the same boat as them from across the country. We have other ways to give feedback as well. I mentioned the town hall call, but we also have our annual GNSA member survey, which goes out to all of our GNSA members, but we ask that our liaisons take the time to complete it because your voices are especially valuable. You can attend a GNSA conference or an AACN conference. We have our annual GNSA conference, as Marta mentioned, and that I believe is the 31st and through August of July through August 1st this upcoming year. It normally falls around that time each year, and we have information about it on the website, but we always have a get together for our liaisons at that event, a specific networking lunch, so you can get to know each other in person. Obviously, we have our GNSA Virtual Career Readiness Week, and attending that, like the webinars, can fulfill a responsibility. We also have work groups, which I mentioned previously very briefly, but these are opportunities to look at the GNSA's resources on the national level and say, we could use a very specific resource for, say, students who are neurodiverse or students who are struggling to find a preceptor, and come together and actually work to create those resources and make a change on a national level. You can also participate in the GNSA Advocacy Leaders Program, which looks at the federal government and is another way to engage on a national scale. And then you can post about the GNSA or share posts that the GNSA has made on social media, because we use that as a major way to communicate about upcoming events. So obviously the ways that you can engage are incredibly extensive. But as I said, that's the benefit of the program, is you can pick how you engage in the ways that are most useful for you. And so Marta, I'll let you take this.
Anne. And an important thing to know if you were feeling overwhelmed by those lists is that, we do ask you to only complete 3 of those. You can certainly do more, but we understand that, as graduate students, you have very busy schedules and lots going on. And so we certainly understand that as well. So I really like the way Anne said, it's really choose your own adventure based on what fits best for you. So next, you might be asking yourself, how do I get started? I've signed up for the liaison position. What do I do next? How do I really dive into this role and start working on some of those opportunities for engagement? So some of the things that we recommend, first, we suggest that you meet with a student services coordinator or someone with a similar type of role at your university. And I'm sorry, we also certainly would want you to meet with the student services coordinator at AACN as well. And this is kind of your one-on-one opportunity to really dive into the role and understand, ask questions, specific questions that you may have, but also get an opportunity to share information about you and share what your research interests are or what your practice interests are. And this is something that the student services coordinator, and in our case, Anne, takes into account, makes reference to, and really tries to fit you into places where, whether it's participating on a specific work group based on your interests, or engaging in a specific type of activity, contributing to the liaison pulse, or recommending other potential contacts for you. And our student services coordinator is really great at connecting all of those pieces and connecting all of the dots and really helping get you onboarded into the role. So that's really the first step. And I started off talking about student services coordinator at your institution as well. So pairing with that, we certainly encourage you to connect with either somebody from the student services department at your school or a faculty member that can kind of help you share information related to the GNSA, and that can serve as your ally in getting word out to the students about what's available to them as well. Next, we want you to think about what are your goals for the semester as a GNSA liaison? What are you hoping to accomplish? And these can certainly be small or large goals. It certainly is up to you, but we want you to think about those goals and create those goals, set those goals so that you have something to reference at the end of the semester to see how much progress you were able to make as a liaison and to see where you can adjust your goals for the next semester. So Anne shares more information about how to do that, where to do that, as she goes through the onboarding call with you. And last, to really help you get started, we encourage you to connect with our leadership council and connect with one individual. So Anne referenced the leadership council. It consists of 10 students, and these students serve a 2-year term on the GNSA, and they're really responsible for setting the strategic priorities for the GNSA. And one of the things that members of the leadership council do is connect with the liaisons to really understand, as you are our boots on the ground, really help us understand what are the current issues or challenges or opportunities that exist for graduate nursing students. And that is another way that you could really build on that networking benefit and opportunity, because it allows you to network with another student from, sometimes it could be a different program, but from across the country, and really get you connected to that 10-person leadership council as well. Anne?
Thank you so much. So, as I sort of mentioned, we've talked about the objectives of the liaison program and how to get started, but I want to talk a little bit more about the benefits of being a liaison, because this is a role that we've really built up to be a chance to build your resume, to grow outside of your school and to be a leader. And so there are a couple of ways that liaisons specifically benefit from being in the program. One of those is being a national change maker. I mentioned the town hall calls and the work groups, and they're both spaces in which you directly have an impact on national level programming within an association that works with almost every graduate nursing school across the country. So the work that you do as a liaison has a huge impact. It's an opportunity to be in a role that makes you feel like you're doing something and able to create change. And we've been very purposeful about that as we built the role. It's also, as I mentioned, has lots and lots of networking opportunities, talking about the office hours, those networking events, the calls with the leadership council. And then we also have a change agent community that is an online forum specifically for our liaisons. It's a place to either share advice on how to be in the role and what has and hasn't worked, but also a place if you're having a question or going to a conference to connect with other student leaders. We have those writing and communication skill development opportunities as well, like being writing a piece for the Liaison Pulse or sharing your passions in the GNSA community. And then it's an opportunity for leadership growth and for recognition. We send a certificate for each liaison, both to the liaison themselves and to AACN's primary contact at the school, often the dean. And then we often have opportunities to represent the GNSA at professional events, whether that be a conference or before the board or during an event for students. And whenever we find an opportunity like that, we kick it directly to our liaisons. They are first and foremost the people who hear about them. And so obviously there's a lot going on, a lot of moving parts in the GNSA and the liaison program, but we don't expect liaisons to do a lot of resource creation themselves. We have a lot of resources for liaisons off the bat. I mentioned that change agent community, a space where you can connect with other liaisons and ask questions and meet each other. We also every month send out liaison updates, and this is the one key thing that I say you need to make sure you do every month, which is read that. It has every single piece of information you need to know as a liaison, whether that is opportunities to share with students on your campus, like upcoming webinars or programming, as well as things that are specific to the liaison program, the networking events, the semester summaries, opportunities we're offering specifically for liaisons. So going through that each month, and it comes out on the third Wednesday of every month, is the best way to know everything that you're going to need to know for the coming month. We also have a guidelines and engagement packet, in addition to the memorandum of agreement, which you sign when you become a liaison, which lists all the responsibilities that we've discussed today. This walks you through a little bit more in detail about the different ways that you can engage and the different resources that you have access to. We also have a liaison information sheet that's very similar. And then we have information about the GNSA. So when you're going out on campus or to a conference and saying, hey, there's this free resources you check out, it might be beneficial to you. You have both a physical or a digital brochure, an infographic card about the 5 ways to get started with the GNSA, and business cards. So we don't expect you to actually make any of those resources yourself. We already have them available for you. And then, of course, like I said, the liaisons are able to give feedback on the GNSA, but if there's things as a liaison that would be beneficial to you, whether that be resources or extra support, you're able to communicate that as well. And so many of these resources have been built specifically because liaisons asked for them. And so it's designed to be sort of a two-way street. So with that, shared a lot of information. We'll have an opportunity for Q&A in just a second, but I wanted to go ahead and share our contact information as well. Both Marta and I are great resources if you have questions about the GNSA or the Liaison Program, and we absolutely encourage you to reach out. We will get back to you as soon as we possibly can. So with that, thank you all for taking the time to join us. Does anybody have any questions today?
And we did get some questions in via chat that I want to read out loud to you. So the first question that we received is, what is the time commitment for the GNSA liaison role?
That's a great question, especially because we've listed all these responsibilities. But we really don't expect the liaison program to take more than an hour a week. It's sort of designed to run parallel to your other leadership opportunities you're already involved in, whether you're involved on campus or in clubs or at work. We're almost asking you to take the GNSA with you where you already are and share information about them there. And so 1 week you might be doing the town hall call and that fulfills your responsibility. Another, you might be emailing somebody on your campus and saying, hey, do you mind sharing this upcoming webinar, or we're hosting a webinar watch party. Maybe you're taking that time to write a pulse piece or join an office hours. But if you put a little bit in over the course of the semester, you'll be able to complete that responsibility list with no issues.
The next question is, how long is the liaison role?
Oh, that's a great question. I'm assuming you mean how long you'd be in the position. I think I mentioned earlier, liaisons are often in the role until graduation. But we do also respect that some liaisons, especially those who are doing research or working full-time, may hit a point where the responsibilities of the liaison role and their responsibilities academically or professionally are a little bit difficult to juggle. And we have the opportunity for a liaison to either step down for a semester or to step away from the role if they need to. However, for most liaisons, as I said, they stay through their graduation and then they move into the alumni network from there.
To add to our conversation about how much time commitment the role requires, we also understand, we say about an hour, average an hour per week, but we certainly understand that there are times in your semester during the course of your program that you may be more busy than other times, and you may not be able to dedicate that hour. So we certainly understand that and are flexible with that, and just ask you to stay in touch with us and communicate with us and let us know if there are other things that are more pressing on your time that require a little bit more leeway for the liaison role as well.
Yeah, I would add to that, I think the biggest trait that is beneficial for liaison is clear communication. As long as we know what's going on, you are in good standing.
Wonderful. Another question that came in is, can there be more than one liaison at an institution?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. If you look at the list of liaisons, which is available on the liaison webpage, you'll see that there are some schools that have multiple. Typically, we encourage, if there are going to be more than one liaison in a school, that there's a reason for it. So either you're, say, a liaison in the DMP program, but there's a PhD and an MSN program, and maybe you can find a liaison in one of those spaces who could engage with those students more easily. Or perhaps your school only has one program, or you're more engaged in one, but you're going to be graduating in a year, but you've just met a new student who seems very involved, who's graduating in 2 years. going ahead and recruiting them and having them on the team so they can learn the role before you graduate is more than welcome. And so, like I said, it's pretty common, and we have some amazing teams at some of our schools like Kennesaw State University who have really accomplished a lot in their teamwork.
Like we have one more question that came in. When do applications close, and can you review our application cycle?
Yeah, that's a very good question as well. So applications do open and close. Typically, they open at the beginning of a semester and open for 1 to 2 months. So we typically have an application cycle that runs from December through January, and then another that runs at the end of the summer into the beginning of the school term. So what I would say is, if you're watching this at a time where the liaison application is not open, you should go ahead and reach out to myself or to Marta. Let us know that you're interested so we can follow up with you when the application cycle reopens. But also just keep an eye on the page. We always have the date when the next cycle opens available if it's not currently open. And so you know to check back, and then the form will be available there. I believe that answers the question, Marta. Let me know if I'm missing anything on that.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Anne. No more questions.
Okay. All right. In that case, thank you again for joining us today. I'll encourage you, if you're not already have completed an application, or you're not already in the liaison program, I encourage you to take a look at the application and apply today. It's not a huge commitment for the amount of reward that it gives. And personally, it's one of my greatest joys, meeting new liaisons, getting to know them and connect them with each other. So go ahead, take a look at the application, fill it out. If you have any questions, reach out to Marta or I, and thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Thank you, everyone.